Hey everybody, I'm going to speak a little bit low because the babies are taking their nap, and so I'm taking a quick break. And things are quiet, usually as they are in the store. They usually get a little bit busy in the evenings. So I thank God for the reading area during the day, our reading classroom area, so that it's a convenient place to grab a nap for the babies and maybe even the adults in the store during times when we're not so busy. Somebody's making funny noises, so I have to be quiet, but let me know if you can't hear me. Please let me know if you can hear me. Good morning. Well, it's good afternoon out here in this area. So today I wanted to come to talk to you really quickly about unconventional tools in magic, because I've had to think about doing things differently, from running a website to running a store. And then we were laughing here at the grand opening because we were talking about the commercialization of spiritual work. And whereas back in the day, you went to somebody's grandmama's house or out in the backwoods or the back of a bar or a pool hall or a laundromat. And yes, there's always been psychics and ESP readers and different things like that with their signs in the window. You know, hoodoo, the magic of Black people, has been in part due to Christianity, in part due to secrecy, has always been, not as out there as it is now. People of color, conjurers that practice traditions that never died, that were not eradicated by the church, that were even, rolled into the church, catching the Holy Ghost, spirit possession, anointing with oil, conjure oils, waters, drums, and in the case of the founder of the Catholic Church, even animal bones. So there were a lot of things that adapted and rolled through with our practices. And, the discussion being had last week about the use of particular gods. Well, just because you may have converted to, and I don't know how well Hinduism or Judaism, even that for that matter, or you've converted to some other religion as a person of color, your folk magic, the magic of your culture, can be carried with you. You can work with the deities that you worship. So it's very funny how people who are guests in our tradition do not understand adaptation in the ways that we do. And that's to be expected. When you grow up in a culture, you have ancestral lineage in a culture, you have things that we just did. And we had ghosts in our house. Thank you, Lucretia. My girlfriend Tamiko left this. It's Fenty. Bling. We have traditions that are deeply rooted in what is deemed to be magical practice. I don't believe that Black people are responsible for the term hoodoo. I do believe that research of white archaeologists and anthropologists, and of course Zora Neale Hurston was involved in a lot of some of that early research, but she also used the terminology often of her sponsors. Because you couldn't write it in a way we understood it. You'd have to write it in a way they understood it. And that's why I think that some of Zora's stuff, like the colors for candles and different things like that, often have said it's been written in code or maybe not as accurate as it could be. That's good. I'll print her label. Just leave it here. Okay. So there is, there may be some discrepancies, or there may be a difference in just the way that they venerate it. So, I'm thinking about all this stuff. I did not want to have an online store. There was a time that when I departed from my mentors that I was not going to publicly practice do this as anything that would be a financial venture. It was not something that I was going to get rid of in my life, but I just absolutely detest on both the black side and white side of the online conjure community some of the behaviors of those people. It's so funny because when some stuff comes to light about people, I've usually had the information for a very long time. But it does not serve me to gossip about other people and their character flaws, wrongdoing, and the like. And so because of that, I just walk away when I'm in a situation where I am not very comfortable with the way people are behaving. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to any festivals this year, because I think that everybody has their own purpose and their own mission, but I do think that getting this store solid in this community is more important than going around, and these crowds can be very problematic for your practice. You got to keep your circle tight, and sometimes your enemy's close, and sometimes you got to let them go. Thank you. That's this Fenty. My friend Tamiko gave it to me. So back to unconventional tools. So what I find is it's really kind of upsetting because you'll see in these groups people that are just like way, way off. And the only group that I ever point newbies towards or experience witches towards is the Witches Brew, Daisy's group, because they'll straighten your ass out real quick. But aside from that, I think that there is enough in that group, and I know in my customer group, where we can look at people's alternative ways of doing things. And, this root work, in a very public manner, you can take a card and go get more, in a very public manner, in a very spiritual, deep, secretive thing, being done in a very public manner, it causes you to have certain cautions, protections, and a lot of nonsense that you may not have ordinarily put up with in the past. I had somebody call the store on Saturday and ask me who my patron was. Now, in the Orisha circles and religions and their worshipers, they do tell who is their crown. In Voodoo, we do not. We do not even tell our children. Okay? So I was just like, you feel like people are trying to test you. So there's going to be a little bit, and then more workers are going to know about each other and what they're doing and the information they're giving to clients. Because, you get somebody that went and had a reading at one merchant, and then they come over to a reading for another, and you find out some craziness is going on wherever they had their service. It's funny, too, because I often get referrals of mostly black people, but often from stores around here who they don't do spell work, or they feel like whatever this person is dealing with culturally is more appropriate to speak to me. And that's been going on since, I moved here. But I've had to call a couple of those stores and be like, when somebody is definitely, I don't even know how to say this, just not right in the head, that's not an immediate referral for me. There are some people that can be helped, but then there are some people, that's another thing that happens to you when you're on a store, that are relentless in trying to get you to help them. I'm busy, honey, hold on. Relentless in trying to get you to help them. And, you think about all these things before you go into business. But back to the original topic of using unconventional tools. We have technology now, which makes us think differently. Now, I've seen some stuff online, like touch this sigil on the screen and, repeat after me. And I'm just like, okay, that's just that's, to me, I'm old school. Maybe a millennial person would feel different, but it reeks of that Christian stuff where they tell you to touch and agree in the screen. And then you think about the EMFs and all of that. And so there are certain things in technology for me personally that don't work well with my magic. But you've got people who will, back in the old days, you may had an oil that you did, a hot process where you cooked that oil over in a cast iron cauldron for several days. And now we have crock pots, and some people have crock pots specifically to cook their oil. So then the question is, is the use of the crock pot make it any less magical? I mean, in the material sense, no. The formulation's still the formulation. It will be still transformed by heat. But then when you start to look at, if you could do something in a cauldron, you're looking at cooking something, in cast iron, the strength of that, the energy of that cooking through to whatever you are working on. If you believe in energy and you believe in the power of the spirit and the functionality of your materials. I have seen spell work done. I have done spell work without materials. I know there are certain spells that without a particular material, I can't do that spell. It's a spell, but it ain't that spell. And those things are usually, secret things that you've been given as an initiate. But as far as hoodoo is concerned, and what I think is very important to spreading the magic of Black people in a way that is well-educated, understood, least likely to be appropriated if people truly understood that, not working with your ancestors does not add more power. You're just simply working and doing herb magic. The things that we do in our churches, and that's why a lot of people argue about you can't have hoodoo without the Black church. Well, you couldn't have the Black church without hoodoo, in my opinion. So I can see that as an inclusionary part. But if I'm not a Christian and I exclude that from my practice, does that not make that the magic of a Black person, which is hoodoo? Okay, an ancestral magic of a Black person. So, I had a woman come in this weekend into the store, and I always ask people what they practice. Not because I want deep information from them so I can, judge them. It's so that I can serve them, so that I can say, well, this would appeal to you in this practice, this would appeal to you in that practice, because I try to study as much as I can about the occult, not just my personal practices. And so the woman said, well, you always know you're running into trouble when somebody says they are an eclectic witch or a soul practitioner, because they have shaped their magic in a vacuum. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing your work in private. I get that. You should. You shouldn't be posting it in groups. You shouldn't be asking anybody else to divine it for you. You should ask for a diviner in the first place before you started the work. But, when you hear that word eclectic, that means that they've been left to their own devices. And that's good for your creativity. The store phone is ringing. But I'm about to walk over here with you while I'm being very quiet, because it's probably an 800 number, because all of these people keep trying to call me. They can go to voicemail. It's okay. Because I do want to finish this train of thought. So in any case, God, I hate that. We're talking about unconventional tools. There are some things we are not able to replicate from Africa. There are herbs and roots that we had to adapt to using, high John being one of them. And I was talking to a mentor the other day, and he was like, we really probably, it's being overused, if you've got a little bit of high John left to your name, hold on to it. Because once again, it's from people who, yeah, there's business cards in there. You trying to give one to somebody?
I'm gonna go to that barber.
Oh, to the barbershop. Yes, we got Black Barbershop here. I just want to go over and say, hey. Here, give it to me. It just opens like a briefcase. Here's a little briefcase. I want to show y'all this because I'm really girly. I got this little briefcase that holds my business cards. Look at that. Just like you would open a regular briefcase. You've probably never had a regular briefcase, have you?
No.
You lucky child. All right. Always grew up with internet and never had to carry a briefcase. Because now everybody carries a laptop backpack. Remember when backpacks were considered to be incredibly casual and not appropriate for business? Girl, be quiet. Anyways, so we've had to adapt. We've had to change things that we've used. We found out about things like I go to the international grocery store and I find an Indian. We've got some type of seeds here that I'm looking up that they sell that's edible, but I know if you can put it in your body, you usually can use it for magic. So you researching the magical properties of other herbs and roots, but just because it came from India, if it has a magical property and a planetary alignment and an element associated with it, why can't I use it in my magic? And why would my magic not be hoodoo? That's a whole Indian herb, okay, that I'm putting in my work. But see, there are things that, and I dare say this because people take these things with them and they run with them, that transcend practice. And let me give you an example. Across all of magic, and you can look in any herb correspondence, I suggest Culpeper's Herbal to start. Because the thing's from the 16th century and it talks about its virtues and its planetary alignment. When you know the planetary alignment of an herb or root that you're using, you know what it's used for. But there are some herbs and roots that people, that historically have been used for one thing, and people have found that it has power in another. Now, if you understand Western pharmaceuticals, they all come from the earth. They all come from herbs and roots. Often depression is treated with lithium, which is found in the little Pediatric crystal, B12, magnesium, vitamin D, okay? And when it comes to even, like I said, the most powerful one is lithium, okay, used for bipolar depression. It's a mood stabilizer, but it is of no surprise that lepidolite is a stone for anxiety, to help you to relax, to help you get yourself under control, okay? Not everybody's going to connect with every crystal. In fact, I did not believe in them for a while until I got my hands on a big rhodonite ball, and I rubbed my hands over it, and I could feel electricity coming from it. And Shadow, who taught one of our first crystal classes, showed how you are a conductor of energy. She has this little thing that she uses to show that, you know, you can conduct energy back and forth between yourself and something else, and there's something else in that little piece. So keeping that in mind, pendulums, certain crystals are going to work for people, some people, and they're not going to work for others. You know, does that make them lose their magical prescription? Does that make them lose their doctrine of signatures? No, it does not. Okay? It's just that for this person, that does not work. The same with deities. The longer you are a Christian conjurer, Mama Star is probably the longest person I know who is a Christian conjurer. And maybe if it had been a different day and age, you know, for a very long time, Christian conjurers were the majority of the people that were public about practicing hoodoo. But as many of us leave the church, and many of us go back to traditional African practices, those of us who study and initiate start to see those relationships. They're never one-on-one. Some practices don't use any of the stuff at all, or rarely, okay? You know, so things will change. Things will adapt, okay? The problem with the lithium has never been its effectiveness. It's been its concentration and dosage. In fact, when when a pharmacist is putting together something, they will call it compounding the drug. So what you're having in the whole pharmaceutical, explained like at a very base level, is they're able to pull all of these things that we call natural remedies out of the earth, pull out the most powerful parts of said natural remedies, and compound them into pharmaceutical drugs that are often faster and more effective, but because of that compounding, can cause side effects in others. You can consider an herb or a root not working in a particular magic that you're performing as a side effect. That herb root is not for you, or you find one. It's just like when they found out that Wellbutrin, which was an antidepressant, helped people quit smoking. Then, I don't know if Chantix is part of the Wellbutrin family, but they decided to take that and make that a smoking cessation drug. They may have changed that formulation because, Wellbutrin worked for me for a number of years and then caused tremendous anxiety attacks and depression and panic attacks when I got back from initiation. Why? Because I didn't listen to the spirits when they told me I wasn't going to have to take that no more. Okay? I subsequently tried another medication, but it is making me tired. So, and I'm in a pretty good space right now, so I'm good. But, some people cannot make that judgment or that assessment. And for people who are on pharmaceuticals for mental illness, it's a very long, hard road for them to find what works for them specifically. And the same can be said for hoodoo, okay? You're going to find what works for you eventually. You're going to find that you have a sweet spot. You're going to find that you either making oils really good, or you really cleanse and bless, or you real good at cursing folks. You may find that you can make really good colognes, or you may find that you're just divine and that you're not one of those people. Me, if I had all the time in the world, I think my gardening skills would be a lot better. Right now, we got a bunch of stuff that needs to go on the ground and no time to put it in the ground. So, I don't know. Well, I hope we can get it into the ground soon. Because after Mother's Day is when planting season starts here. But our plants don't want to wait that long. They're a little bit out of control in the greenhouse. So, there's a really good article, and I'm going to see if I can find that article. I keep talking about it. And it is about changing the sentence of a spell. So, there are going to be technological advances and things that you can use. Some people have electronic grimoires. Does that make it any less of a grimoire because it's in electronic format? No. People of my age and older, and even millennials, are still trying to bridge that gap between paper and electronic books. My youngest daughter, loves regular books. I'm in zone 5. Aren't we in zone 5, Rakia? 5A, I believe. We're in zone 5A, and they tell us never to plant anything outside before Mother's Day, but we were hardening them, and yeah, that's a whole bunch of fun. But, I think that one of the most important things, because when you tell people you can do what you want in a practice, or venerate whatever god you feel like, or use whatever herbs and roots, because in some forms of witchcraft, they tell you that you can use rosemary to replace any herb or root. No, you can't. They'll tell you that you can use any root of any morning glory flower for Haijan root. No, you can't. It's one specific species. Impomia jalapa. Okay? So, but, just having people tear you down because you do something a little bit differently. If you know the doctrine of signatures, and you still find the use of something else working for you, that's fine. I encourage you to record it so that your the descendants have that from you as an ancestor. And then that will change the way they do their magic. But too many of us were not taught by mentors. Too many of us were taught by books and on the internet. My phone's dying, so I'm going to let you guys go. Anyway, I got to get back to work. But too many of us are, they say that about rosemary. They also have something called graveyard dust, talking about mullein can be used for graveyard dust. There's no such thing. Either graveyard dirt or cremains. Take your pick. People, you have to understand, there are people who are very scared of working with their ancestors because they think of necromancy, they think about working with the dead, they think about spirit connection, they think about every horror movie and church sermon that they have gotten, and they make weird substitutes, and that's not what I'm talking about. If you don't want to work with the dead, just work with the elements. I mean, they're all part of the same energy anyway, but we have faced a problem where people have come into traditions that are, we can't even put a date on this tradition. We could talk about when hoodoo developed in America, but what we cannot talk about is where all of these practices stem from millions and millions of years ago. We've got some cave drawings and things like that, but we're still making guesses about stuff that happened in the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, 21st, 19th, 20th, 21st century. We're still making assumptions about stuff that we haven't discovered yet, that we haven't researched enough about yet. But, when I talk to beginning students, when I talk to them and I have magical mentoring sessions with them, one of the things I want you to stop saying is, I'm scared. If you've got a book of herbs and you look up herbs that will cleanse, protect, purify, reverse, and you're doing that type of magic on yourself, do it, okay? Get used to talking to your ancestors. Get used to asking for them. A lot of people have ancestor altars, and they just honor them, which is great, but they want to help. Sometimes they'll help without you asking, but, like they used to tell you in the church, try God. Test your faith. Ask for what you want. Work with them, feed them, give them what they loved when they've done things for you. But you cannot be in a practice if you don't practice. And yes, you're going to hear all types of crazy tools and things that don't seem like they're correct, or they are correct, but they're not. Yes, there is no room for fear in magic. But magic does teach you to be fearless. So there's going to be times when I first started out, I was very stressed when I was putting formulations together for the Titty Grease, which was my first product. And my daughter wants to learn how to make them, so I think we're going to put them on sale. But because I felt like Mr. Gower in It's a Wonderful Life, where I didn't want to give somebody the wrong thing and hurt them. But one of the things I can find is that, you're working on, I try to always, and my mentors taught me this, work on the positive stuff first. Make sure you clean up really well. Then work on the negative stuff. And then make sure you cleanse and clean up really well. And you cleanse yourself when you're working with those types of herbs. Or you can work from the bad stuff and cleanse yourself, because Monday is a great day for that, Saturday is a great day for that. And then use the other days of the week for the good stuff. In fact, that's probably a better idea. But, you work through that fear by doing the work. There's no way in the world that I would come and profess myself to be a believer in something that I have not tried. And therefore, you have to try it. It's not enough to just buy the oils, sit them at the house, look at them. What'd you do with them? And I love it in my customer group, because when they do stuff with the products and they have results, they tell everybody, hey, I used this and this I used it, and this is what happened. That is a good functioning of a Facebook group, because it helps people to understand how to do things, as well as, it provides a faith. It provides testimony. Can you go on now until I'm finished? she want to sit here next to me, and I'm using that. But I've got to get back to we're putting the price tags and labels on the front of the herbs, so that people know how much things cost without having to ask. And we don't have them all memorized either, so it helps. It's different when you're doing it from the website. They do that for you. Another difference between having a personal store and having a website. So there's going to be differences in upfront and personal magic. Upfront around people, face to face, presents its challenges. There was a lady that came in here, and like I said, the second white lady comes in talking about she's an eclectic practitioner, and that she practices Appalachian hoodoo. And I said that why would you take my stuff, girl? I told her that the appropriate term was Appalachian conjure. That hoodoo, I didn't even go into the rest of it, because the dark cloud came in, and everybody in this store felt her anger or dissatisfaction with being taught something. She didn't buy anything. I don't know when she left, but everybody was like, what was her deal? And having to deal with people like that. But the purpose here is for us to be a resource, for us to tell the truth about our practices as we know it, and to provide something for everyone, no matter what they practice. Honesty, truth, those things are important, as much as I know, to be honest. So today I'm working on the class schedule and working with the different instructors and specialists that will be here in the store. So if you guys are, somebody I'm working with, and you know who you are, I'll probably be sending you an inbox and invite you to a group where we'll hash out the schedule and the like. And so that we can get a class schedule for May and June, hopefully get that out the way. So if any of you are experienced instructors in anything occult, and you would like to share your knowledge with us, I encourage you to message me, because we're going to be using the TV here, so no matter if you're a world away, you can teach here and online with my students. And we talk about, percentages of what you'll be paid versus what we'll be paid for hosting events and things like that, and have a contract all done up for your class, and then all instructors will be paid at the conclusion of a particular session or set of sessions. So anyways, got to get back to work. So talk to you soon. Bye.